Okay. Hi everyone. Welcome back. So this is going to be the first of our kind of bonus lecture series. So today the first one is going to be about Firebase. So before I kind of introduce Firebase, we're just going to take attendance real quick, as we always do. So here's the QR link. The number of the day is 17. All right. All right. So what you might be asking yourself, kind of, what exactly is Firebase? I've been alluding to it and talking as if you know exactly what it is without actually explaining it. So now I just kind of want to take the time to just go over it. So Firebase is a platform developed by Google to, as they claim, build, improve, and grow your app. And the tools it gives you cover a large portion of the services that developers would normally have to build themselves, but don't really want to build because they'd rather be focusing on the app experience itself. These things include analytics, authentication, databases, configuration, file storage, post messaging, notifications. The list goes on. Mind you, it's pretty extensive what Firebase offers. Um, yeah, and then today we're just gonna introduce kind of a small taste of. Oh yeah, what's up? It's 17. Yeah, yeah, and then today we're just gonna introduce kind of a small taste of what you can do with some of the services offered. But there's a lot that I implore you to kind of explore. So the Firebase services are hosted on the cloud, um, and no, not these kinds of clouds, but like the cloud technology clouds, like the Techno Gizmo Silicon Valley, whatever. Yeah, and these services scale with little to no effort on part of the developer. Of course, if you want to offer a full extent of the services, you're going to have to pay. But a lot of what they offer at a smaller scale is free for developers. So if you want to kind of go beyond that, you probably shouldn't. It probably wouldn't be cost effective to continue to use Firebase. But if you're a small developer looking to just make a quick app or just start off with a small scale with Firebase, then it's a cool solution. So the first part of Firebase that I'll kind of introduce you today is authentication. And what exactly is authentication? Firebase Authentication provides backend services, easy to use SDKs, and ready-made UI libraries to authenticate users to your app. It supports authentication using passwords, phone numbers, and popular federated identity providers like Google, Facebook, Twitter, and more. So when you're sometimes when you're sometimes browsing a website, and you can sign in with the help of using your Google account or Facebook account or Twitter account. Authentication lets you kind of coalesce all these methods and give you users on your app. So you can then go on to store any specific information about your users or present them with a unique experience as it pertains to your app. For example, like storing the user's purchase history or their favorites. And while you can use things like shared preferences to store some of these things on the device itself, it can kind of be inconvenient to the user if they delete the app or get a new phone, whereas the data, where all the data that they store on the phone is lost. But Firebase lets you kind of persist that information as it pertains to your user. And if you want to kind of expand your app empire to other platforms like iOS or web, Firebase, the data that Firebase stores can easily be accessed across all those platforms. Right. And the last thing that I kind of want to introduce with Firebase is called Firestore. So what exactly is Firestore? So Cloud Firestore is a flexible, scalable database for mobile, web, and server development from Firebase and Google Cloud. So for those of you who don't really know backend, this offers kind of an easy way to seamlessly store, sync, and create data for your mobile and web apps at a global scale. So if you're kind of a one-person team and you need a kind of place to store all your data, then Firestore is a nice, easy solution to kind of help you with that. Firestore and Authentication, for the most part, are free for developers to use. Firestore has a free quota that developers can access, but of course, if you want to try and store large amounts of data, or query a lot of Firestore plain times a day, that's going to cost. That's where you can kind of start racking up the cost. As long as you keep the queries at a minimum, and that's where you can kind of take advantage of using Firestore for free. Right, now that I've introduced you kind of these two services that Firestore will offer, that Firebase offers, I'm going to try and show you how you can set some of these things up and what you can kind of do with them. All right, that gave me a chance to switch to Android Studio. Actually, no, the first thing I'll do is show you how you can first set up a Firebase project. I just realized that I can't do two things at once. Okay. Oh, this is so difficult. Actually, Firebase should come right up. Usually it's the first couple of things. Of course, since it's Google sanctions, probably going to be the first result because they want to push their products to the top, right? So we have Firebase here. You simply click. It should say like get started. And then you can add a project here. And then you can give it some kind of name. I'll just give it a name of, right, Firebase Demo 2. And then you can just click continue. And then create project. And it's going to take a second to actually create. Okay, new project is ready. Right, so now it's going to say, now we have to actually integrate our Android app, connect our Android app to Firebase. And we can do that simply by just clicking this little Android icon here. Right, it's going to ask you a bunch of information, kind of like the package name, your app nickname, and then the SHA-1, this kind of fingerprint ID here. So in order to get your package name here, you can simply, let me open Android. Yes, go to Android here, and then go to Manifest, and then your package name is here. So in this case, I already started like a project, like a template project here, but if I were to have a package name, it would just be this. I guess we can try at the top left corner here, there's like this Gradle icon that you can click. And then in this kind of run anything, you want to type in signing report. And then give it a second to do its job. You can see the SHA-1 here. You just simply copy that over and then go back and then just paste that in. Right, so in this case, I already have a project that has this SHA-1 already on there, but let's see if I can start a new one. Right, I already have a project that has this exact same package name and shot. So I'll generate a new project and kind of run through that too, just so you can see what it looks like. Android, no activity. Okay. So same steps, signing report, and wait for that to generate. And we can get the package name in the Android manifest. I'm just waiting for that, waiting for Gradle to finish building. So in this case, we have and then waiting for that to finish. My goodness. Okay. So in this case, Gradle failed. So in case you ever run into this error, as you see here, it's pretty simple to fix. You can just simply go to settings, and then you have to change the Java that your Gradle is running under. So in this case, mine is running under Java 1.8, but it's supposed to be 11. And then we can try it again. Signing report. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we have the SHA-1 here. So I'm just gonna copy and paste it again. Okay. And register app. And it's gonna have you download like a configuration file that like connects the Firebase project to like your Android Studio project. So you can just download it here, and then you can just like drag and drop it. So in this case, it's kind of like directing you how you can drag and drop it. So saying that, switch it to the project view, and then switch it to the project view, and then paste it under like this app directory here. So then once you do that, and then you can add like the equivalent dependencies too. So in this case, this top part should already be done for you. So mainly what you have to do is just add these like apply plugins here, and then apply the dependencies here. And I'll show how that looks like. Yeah, you have to add these to your module level, Gradle.
Right, so once you actually create your project, this is kind of what you're greeted with. So on the side, you see the various services that Firebase has to offer. So of course, the first two are authentication and Firestore, because they're the most popular services that Firebase offers. So if I want to click on authentication, usually I when I want to integrate a new Firebase service, I like to have the documentation for the specific service side by side. So in this case, if you want to access the documentation for authentication, you can just go into Google, type in Firebase Authentication. It should come right up. And on the side, you can kind of find um, your equivalent kind of uh, you can find your equivalent. In this case, we're using Android, so we can just do Android, get started, and it'll kind of direct you through the steps here as well. Well, it'll direct you of how you can implement it exactly. But usually, like when you're integrating new Firebase services, they require some dependencies. So you can find the set dependencies under the documentation here. And if you want to also for authentication, if you want to try and integrate another method of signing in, you can, for example, if I want to integrate Facebook, I can just go here and it'll direct me to here. One key thing when you're adding new methods of signing in for Firebase, you want to click on the authentication tab here and then click on sign in methods and then make sure that you add in your respective providers. In this case, I'm going to just simply add in the Google provider so I can sign in with Google in my actual Android app. So boom, 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 save. And now I can use I can use Gmail and I can use Google to sign into my Android app. If I want to, for example, integrate another provider, I can just simply click and find my respondent to try and add in a new provider. I can just click here and then um, find my respective service there. In this case, I don't want to add anything, so I won't. But yeah, I'll show you how you can integrate Google Sign In, but the other providers are there if you need it.
Right. So authentication, if you want to try doing authentication, you have to add the correct dependencies first. So in this case, the only dependency that authentication has is, well, there's two. Oh, there's three. It's just these three. So once you add the standard Firebase dependency, then you can add the equivalent dependencies for authentication here. And then once you have that, then you can actually start implementing the Google sign-in. And a lot of setting up the different Firebase services is just all boilerplate. It's just like you're just inputting kind of what they tell you to kind of get it to work. So in this case, this is kind of taken directly. What I'm about to do in our main activity here is just taken directly from um, the the API, the documentation to kind of help me set it up. So I have private late init var sign in request. And then I have private late init var auth fire. Right. So this auth object is kind of like the main object that Firebase authentication kind of works through. And you can instantialize the instance of your Firebase auth using firebase.auth. Pretty simple. Right. So then now that we have kind of now that we have the object set up, now we want to actually create the intent to help me sign our user in. So we can create an intent like we usually do. Val sign in intent. In this case, it's not your typical intent object like this. It's the intent that Firebase auth uses to kind of set up the Google sign-in. So auth UI.get instance dot create sign in intent builder. dot set available providers, and an array list of. In this case, I'm only doing, so then with this method here, you kind of specify what exactly you're using to sign in your user. In this case, we only have Google. We're only using Google Sign-in, so that's all we really care about, and all we have to provide. So I'm just going to simply add that here. .google. Oh, I misspelled it. Off UI. All right, once you have that, then we can build it. So now we have an intent here, and we can't use start activity to, I guess, launch this intent, because if we use start activity, once we launch this sign-in intent, we don't know if it's actually successful or not. So we can introduce a new method called register for activity result to kind of get the result back from launching this intent. This method is usually used for when you're requesting permissions. There's like a section of it in the notebook as well. So right, this method, it takes an intent and it gets the result back from that given intent. So in this case, since we're signing in, what we care about from that intent is the result of said sign in. Right, so in this case, we can create our intent launcher directly in onCreate. Val sign in launcher equals register for activity result. Firebase UI. Right, and then we have the callback where it returns some result. And then in here is where we're in this function block is where we respond to the result, whether either it's successful or it isn't, and this can tell us exactly what that is. And if it is successful, then that means that we've logged in successfully. So I'm going to leave that as is for now. In this case, if you want to, and we can use this sign-in launcher to launch the intent to log in. Sign-in launcher dot launch intent. So this bit of code will, if we want the user to sign in, this will launch the intent to get us to sign in and prompt the user to sign in with their Google, Gmail, and password. So in this case, we actually have to kind of fill this out. We're not completely done with, we can't just leave this blank as is. So we kind of have to respond to the result here. So if result code equals okay, result. This means that the intent was successful to log in, and we know that past this point here, that means that we are successfully logged in. So you have val, and then we can get the user by just accessing this auth object here. So val user equals Firebase auth.current user. And it's that simple. So this here represents our currently signed in user. And then with this object, we can kind of do a lot. So it provides us with a lot of different fields. If I want to get the email, I can get the email of the user. Or if I want to get the their profile picture, I can do that too, I think. Profile image. I can get their profile picture like that. Or if I want to get their phone number, I can also do that too. So yeah, a lot of different ways that from the Google profile, we can access kind of these attributes that are tied to their account here. So if I want to respond to the fact that I'm now signed in and maybe change the UI in some way, this would be the place to kind of do it. So for example, maybe I want to access this photo, their profile picture somehow. Maybe I want to create an image view that has this profile picture in it. And I can do that using the glide library that we introduced, I think, during recycle reviews. Yes, recycle reviews. So the glide library, of course, requires a dependency. In this case, it only requires these two dependencies here. Right. So if I want to add the photo URL to our image view, I have to, of course, define the image view first. So I can do that simply by just adding an image view here. Image view, and then Android ID at plus ID. I'll just give it profile image. And then layout height is 200 dB, and then width 300 dB2. And I'll constrain the bottom. I'll constrain it all to the center. So start of, top to top of, and then bottom, parent, and then end to end of parent 2. Right. And I'm also going to define a button as well. This will come in handy later, but I'll have this button here for future purposes. Of course, an ID button. I'll give it a text of next. And then I'll add it to, I'll pin this below, right below our image, and end of parent, and then start of parent, and then top to bottom of our profile image. Oh, right. Wait, bottom to top of, bottom to top of. Bottom to top, wait. Top to bottom of, oh my gosh. I always get this mixed up. Top to bottom of. Wait. Bottom to bottom doesn't make sense. This should be parent. Oh my gosh. Parent. There we go. Okay. Whew. All right. We have the image view here. I want to actually upload our profile URL into that image view just for funsies. So I can do that using the glide library, as I said. So we have glide with this load user.photo URL. In this case, we know for sure it's not null. And we can toString this, right? toString. In this case, I'll change the dimension so that it's actually visible. 100, 100. And then to our binding profile image. Nice. Okay. So then we launch the sign-in intent, and then we get the result in the sign-in launcher. And then once we're actually signed in, we know for sure that we're actually signed in. And then we can load the photo URL into our image view that we just created in our activity main. In this case, I want to sign in on a button click. So I'll use this floating action button here as a means to help me sign in on the clicking of that button. So tab.set on click listener. In this case, sign in launcher dot launch sign in intent. Okay, so then let's try. I don't even need this. Okay, let's try launching this and see what it gives us. So I have my Android phone launched here. Hopefully you guys can see this. Okay, so we have the app that we just developed, right? I'm gonna try signing in here. Oh, look at that. So in this case, I think I was already signed in before, so it didn't actually have to prompt me to sign in again. But in this case, that kind of launched the sign in. Yeah, it didn't ask me to sign in. It didn't ask me to sign into which account since I only have one linked. So it just kind of pulled from whatever account. And this is my profile picture for my Cornell account. So I guess you can actually see it working in real time just like that. So that's pretty cool. Right, so then back to business with this. Okay, so we have Firestore here, right? I'm gonna create a new activity for this, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna create a new activity. In this case, I'll just create an empty activity here. Let's name this secondary activity. In this case, I'm gonna also do binding too, because it makes it a lot more simpler. I think I introduced binding sometime in a discussion earlier this semester, so hopefully it's coming back to rear its head, but yes. It's pretty simple to set up too, so I'm just gonna copy some of these lines. Oh gosh. Okay. Right, and I'm gonna add some elements to our second activity XML here. In this case, I'm gonna use this activity to kind of create a profile in our app for our given user. So in this case, I'm gonna create a profile that asks them have some basic information like what college they go to. So I'll just use that here. I'll create an edit text here. Wrap content, and then I'll add an ID, college name field, and I'll constrain it to the center, of course, as always. Start of parent top. Okay, actually, class is over, so I guess I'm gonna stop here. There's not much left to showcase for this. I can finish it probably on either Monday or Wednesday. I'm thinking Wednesday. Yes, and then I'll also showcase a little bit of the next bonus lecture content as well. Jetpack Compose, which should be exciting too. So stay tuned for that. Sorry about this.